All right, so today I'm going to be giving the big enchilada and the big breakdown on my official wish list for NCAA College Football 25. We see the new trailer come out, the little teaser. Unfortunately, there's no gameplay, there's no graphics of what it will look like, but they did release the teaser and we're expecting the game sometime, very likely I believe the first week of July, maybe the second week of July, maybe like July 12th, I heard, but that's not confirmed. Let's just go through what I want to see from this game. There are some major things. I would certainly like to see EA do some different things than what they've done with their recent iterations of Madden. So the first one, we need realistic recruiting, or at least the ability to customize recruiting to import the classes. So basically what I'm saying, if we're recruiting the class of 2024, there should be a customized option. Maybe EA can't get the rights to those high school players, that's fine, but you should be able to customize that into the game, kind of like you can do with Madden, to where you download a draft class, you can see the mock drafts going all the way to 2025, 2026. Also for EA, it is very important when it comes to the recruiting, we need a recruiting rankings database, a composite type thing. I would love to see them partner, somehow get the rights with the 247 Sports Composite. If you can't do that, make your own version of it to where you've got 2 or 3 different recruiting services putting together rankings, and then there's a composite rating that combines all the players. And then another thing that we need is we need updated rankings, which that would annoy people, but it is part of the recruiting process, to where if you're recruiting a kid and maybe he's ranked 15th overall, going into his junior year, he's probably not going to stay there. He might move up to be the number 3 overall player. He might, stay around number 15, or he might drop to the 190th overall player and fall to a mid 4-star. That's just real recruiting. That's how it works. We need updated recruiting rankings, I would say at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, in real life, they update a lot more than that. But in terms of real recruiting, if you can't get the rights to the high school kids, at least allow us to import. I mean, take a look like the class of 2025. You should be able to recruit those kids 2026. Also, when it comes to recruiting, the NIL idea, NIL realism, things like that, you should be able to take risks and commit some minor violations, like giving kids extra money, things like that. Maybe you have a slight chance of getting sanctioned for it, but that's another thing. If you're trying to build a program, you have to take risks. Maybe give a kid $1 million, you get away with it. I mean, let's be honest about it. In real life, this is what's happening. You should be able to take those risks if you are trying to program build when it comes to recruiting. And if you give a kid extra money, maybe it's illegal, you should be able to move up in his recruitment. You take risks by doing that and you move up in the recruitment. So also same thing with the transfer portal, although I think the transfer portal is going to be really hard to format. I guess it's just going to be similar to recruiting, where you get kids to visit and then you spend points on them, as you see fit, and spend resources on them, things like that, just kind of how they do it dating back to NCAA 2014. So the first thing I would say, we need realistic recruiting, we need a composite, we need ratings to be updated, and also you need to incorporate the NIL in some form or another. The next big thing, when it comes to just playability, we do need some type of deal with either Fox, but preferably ESPN, to incorporate their scoreboard into the game. I absolutely hate what EA does with the fake Madden scoreboard. If they were to somehow strike a deal to where you could make it, and there's actually a mod for NCAA 2014 you can download, and you can get the real ESPN scoreboard. It adds to the experience. It makes it so much better than the phony fake. I mean, again, look at what Madden is doing with their fake scoreboard. Imagine if they had a deal to have CBS's real scoreboard. It just improves the playability. It improves the realism of the game. I would love to see that get incorporated, whether it's ESPN. Although I will say, I do think ESPN is going to be getting a new scoreboard next season. They're going to be going away from that giant one that they've used like the last 3 or 4 years. It's about time they change it. But it would just be great to see an actual realistic scoreboard, or the Fox one. I know a lot of people don't like the Fox scoreboard because of the way it's formatted. And I would agree. I think it's pretty dumb how they put where the team is ranked kind of in the upper quadrant. It makes it very hard, like angled off. It makes it really hard to see. But either way, I would say when it comes to the scoreboards, at least try and get a deal to where you can have, or maybe even NBC, just someone. I just don't want a fake Madden type scoreboard when it comes to that. Another thing that we need full customization when it comes to conferences. You know, if I want to play out a scenario where I want to create two mega conferences that each have 30 teams, I should be able to do it. If I want to reform the Pac-12, I should be able to do it. Obviously, this seems like an easy feature to implement considering, you know, we're seeing Cal and Stanford go to the ACC, and anything is on the table at this point, and I would like to see full customization when it comes to conferences and changing conferences, things like that. Obviously, you know, I do think they're going to be getting the rights to all the players unless something happens to where, I mean, we did see this with Caleb Williams, or it was Caleb Williams, where he was like, you know, you're going to have to pay me more money. Weren't they going to pay every kid $500 to be in the game? Which honestly, for 99.9% of those kids is an amazing deal, because you give yourself more free publicity being in the game. If fans play as you, they become fans of you in real life. So for 99.9%, $500 is definitely an amazing deal because it's free publicity. It's just that 0.1%, like maybe a Caleb Williams, that might get mad at it. But overall, I do think all of the players will be in the game, which certainly is going to improve the playability rather than, I mean, either way, they're just going to be added in by us anyways through our own custom rosters, even if they are not included. Another thing that's needed, and this is included in Madden, but they've done a really bad job with this, is the ability to build a new stadium. Now, Madden has had like the same 5 stadiums that if you get an expansion team, you can build for like the past decade. Hopefully, they make new models, new college football stadiums. You have the ability to build a massive 100,000 seat stadium. You have the ability to build a nice 80,000 seat stadium. Teams like Miami, teams like Pittsburgh, teams like Syracuse, if they want to move out of a dome, all of these teams need new stadiums. This would be a great building thing, especially imagine you're building up a small FCS team into a powerhouse and you have to get a new stadium. I mean, you need a new stadium with a higher capacity. That's just part of the building process of some of these smaller teams, especially considering we can legitimately build these teams to be full-on powerhouses in FBS football. It's the next step, is building a brand new stadium. You need to have at least 5 or 6 different stadium models, preferably more than that. But that's something. And then also you should have the ability to add a roof to your stadium. Maybe if you're controlling Ohio State, you want to add a translucent roof, you should be able to do that. Same thing with Michigan. It would just be a cool, unique feature. Imagine playing a game at the Horseshoe or at Michigan Stadium, and it's a dome. It would just be cool to see something like that. That's kind of more of my personal thing, but, you know, it'd still be cool to have. Another reason why it would be smart to implement new stadium models is because take a team like South Dakota State, for example, or North Dakota State. Both of them have been very impressive powerhouses at the FCS level. Let's say you wanted to start a dynasty with them. The first step would be moving to FBS, moving very likely to the Mountain West Conference, and then from there you win the Mountain West multiple times. You move to the Big 12, you dominate the Big 12, you win national titles. You need a new stadium as you continue to grow as a team and become a powerhouse. It just makes sense. Some other things, I think you should be able to fully customize your team's logo, so you can change their logo, you can import a new logo, you can make the secondary logo the main logo, because some teams have really nice alternate logos that I would like to see as their main logo. There should be an updated college football playoff rankings release later in the season like they normally do when it comes to the 12-team playoff. You should have an ESPN-type analytical FPI percent chance of beating another team. Let's say you're Ohio State and you're facing Northwestern at home. You know, it should be like 96% chance to win. If you look at the game preview, you should be given odds. Ohio State minus 27.5, over under certain number. I'd like to see that incorporated into it. I mean, maybe they don't want to include that, but I just like the idea of, you know, obviously, if you're a really good team facing a bad team, you're going to win, but can you actually cover? That's another thing they could implement into it. You should be able to see where your players got drafted in the NFL draft, because that's a big deal for so many people. They want to see their favorite teams, you know, college players get picked in the first round. Let's say you just had a really good team and, you know, they'd show an update towards the end of the season, or I guess it would be in April, like, oh, you had so-and-so drafted 3rd overall by a team. You had someone drafted 8th overall. You had someone drafted 23rd overall, you had 2 players drafted in the second round. You just see like the success going from college to the NFL, how many players you could actually have drafted in the first round. You should be able to fully customize the college football playoff experience. If you want to expand the playoff to 24 teams, that should be available. If you want to expand the playoff to mirror March Madness, and obviously this would never happen in real life, but it's just a fun idea to have implemented into the game. You should be able to have a full 68 team field towards the end of the season. This is just video games, it's just a fun idea. Or the ultimate bracket of death. Every single FBS team makes the playoff, and it's this huge bracket. There should be some type of analytical rating system in comparison to the actual ratings. So, we have a lot of different things to choose from when it comes to the ESPN FPI, possibly other team ranking systems that are used, just some type of perceived Vegas value, because normally the Vegas value and the power rankings don't align with the actual rankings, because the actual rankings are more based on most deserving versus the actual Vegas power rankings, something like that to compare, okay, analytically, who actually is better. Maybe this one team has lost 2 games, but because they've had a really tough schedule, they would be better. Another thing to possibly include would be to completely change the schedule formats. Like, I like the idea, if these conferences continue to expand, of changing to a 10-2 format where you have 10 conference games and 2 non-conference games, and one of the non-conference game has to be against another Power 5 team. I think that's an interesting idea. And then maybe you could become an independent. Let's say you randomly want to make, Clemson an independent. You should be able to fully customize every single game in your schedule, create your own schedule. Another thing I would say, a lot of us were younger. We all use cryptocurrency. You should be able to pay for in-game purchases using Ethereum, using different cryptos. It's so much easier. And then finally, when it comes to the cover athlete/person, I think it has to be Nick Saban. I mean, based off of, it's not like if we were coming out with a college football video game the year after Joe Burrow did what he did, you got to put Joe Burrow on the cover. And this is nothing against Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman, but it was kind of like he had 3 losses. I don't know. I just think Nick Saban, the GOAT, owned college football for well over a decade, retires, and then we finally get a college football video game. He's got to be on the cover of NCAA 25. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.